Now, the Institute for Democracy and Economic Affairs, IDEAS, is saying Malaysia's biggest problem right now is not so much a fiscal one, but one relating to a crisis of confidence. Saiful, CEO at IDEAS, joins us now. There was a lot of emphasis, as we saw, on the budget deficit when the Prime Minister delivered his plan for 2016. But the crisis of confidence, you're saying this still remains.
Yes, and it's not been properly addressed. And you see, the problem with this crisis of confidence is it is not really an issue that can be addressed with just one budget announcement. So people are asking, what's the impact of this budget on the economy overall? I think if you really want to talk about the economy overall, you need to talk about the bigger picture as well. And this issue of crisis of confidence, maybe it's not really the place for the budget to address it.
And out of the parliamentary session, we are getting dribs and drabs of information around 1MDB. For example, just today, 1MDB not having a joint venture with Dusable. I'm not quite sure how to say that, but are we getting the clear answers that we require to see more transparency on that story?
Well, there's a problem when it comes to 1MDB in the sense that people are simply refusing to believe the news that comes out from the company. And I feel really sorry for the executive in the company. I'm sure they're working really hard to explain the issues as much as they can. But the reality is people are not believing it because there is political involvement. And if you look at the structure of the company, it's really interesting. There's a board of directors, but the most powerful person in the country sits on the board of advisors with no clear legal or fiduciary responsibilities. And this creates a political situation where when a statement is issued by a company, people are not thinking about the statement issued by the company, but thinking about the political repercussion coming out from the situation. And this is the biggest problem that the company is facing, I think.
And the recent Human Rights Watch report placing some scrutiny on the landscape of Malaysian laws, what's your response to that?
Yes, I must say it's a very, it's a damning report for Malaysia, saying that there's a culture of fear being inculcated in the country. Most people who side with the government would immediately say there is freedom of expression, there's freedom of speech in Malaysia, but most people who side on take the other side will say there might be freedom of speech, but there's no freedom after the speech, so there is a risk. And I must say that I feel that the risk is definitely there. You can see how people who criticize the government, actions are taken against them. So this creates that perception that the government is clamping down on critics.
So this cloud of perception on either side of the fence is ahead of the U.S. President's visit to Malaysia as part of his tour on the eastern side. TPP is going to be part of the conversation, most likely when he arrives. So the question is, will the U.S. bully us?
Well, whether or not the U.S. bully us, I think it depends on how we behave in the government, in the agreement itself. I think the reality is TPP is an agreement between 12 countries at the very least. So 12 parties are in that negotiation. I think we should have the confidence that we as a country can go ahead and deal with the global challenges. I think if we plan the strategy carefully, we should be okay. But the critics of TPP are really vocal at the moment, and I'm really worried that the government is not responding quickly enough or convincingly enough.
And Indonesia now is signaling that it may become the lucky 13 for the TPP, so what would that mean for Malaysia?
Yeah, but we cannot be left out in this. Indonesia has signaled that they're interested. Even Vietnam is quite committed to the TPP. Countries like South Korea are beginning to say that they're interested in looking at it as well. So we cannot be left out.
Now, we're not quite a week yet since the budget 2016 was delivered, but what do you think was missing?
To me, the biggest missing issue in the budget is how the government will resolve the crisis of confidence.
But beyond that?
Yeah, but beyond that, I think the government is clearly trying to, adhere to a strict discipline in reducing the budget deficit. I think they're doing quite well on that end. There are still questions about how the government will continue to spur economic growth in the country. There are questions around, why is it suddenly the government is talking about taxing those people who are earning at the highest level. So,
and Fitch said that the public wage is one aspect that could cause fiscal slippage.
That's true. But I suppose the government is trying to address that by, addressing the minimum wage, increasing that. But we do need to take steps that can increase the income level of the population, while at the same time increase productivity as well. It cannot be just a push on the wage side, but no real increase on productivity.
And Wan Saiful, you're a libertarian at heart, so GLCs, their role in all of this, what are you seeing?
Well, you know, 1MDB is a GLC. And you see the problem that can happen when politics and business gets too mixed up with each other. I think we need to reduce the number of GLCs, state-owned enterprises that exist in Malaysia. The government acknowledges the need to do that. But I don't really see any, real movement towards that direction. The new economic model launched by the current Prime Minister clearly says that they need to reduce the number of state-owned enterprises in the economy. Signing up to the TPP would put more discipline to the country, pushing us towards rationalizing the numbers of GLCs. But in terms of steps taken by the government voluntarily at this stage, I don't see any real concrete steps yet.
All right, thank you so much, Wan Saiful. Always a pleasure having you around the set. We want to make sure it's not too long till your next time.
Thank you.
That was Wan Saiful, Wan Jan of Ideas.